done makes more money than perfect. And you just got
Yeah.
to get it done for everything you do. No need to try to like overanalyze things or try to figure it out. If they're not there, you put it in the mail. But I think too many agents try to find the perfect system, the perfect call, the perfect script, and they're just not doing enough of the calls and really getting out there.
You have officially tuned in to another episode of the Enterprise Coaching and Real Talk Podcast with David Adam Kurz. Stay tuned to hear amazing guests give you great content to help your business grow.
Luis, thank you for coming on the show. I want to introduce everybody to Luis Andrew Ruiz, who's one of the top producers at One Path Realty, who is fantastic. We've followed each other in the past. We finally had an opportunity to meet at Riley Smith's seminar that he does annually. And I stuck around. I heard you speak. It was fantastic. I was very intrigued. We met after, and we've been in communication since. And I want folks to know, like, you run a team. How many people are on your team right now? About 12, 13?
About 12, 13, yes.
All right. And
11 agents and support.
Awesome. And your goal for this year is how much? 70, if I'm not mistaken?
75 million, 175 transactions.
All right. So 170 transactions, $70 million. That's a goal for this year. Last year was a fantastic year. We'll get into that in a minute. 13 agents. How many years in the business?
I had my real estate license since 2014, but I've been a full-time realtor 2 years in July. So a little shy of 2 years.
So I'm gonna take off my jacket.
You're starting to sweat. I see it.
It's starting to get warm in here. Hold on a second. It's starting to get warm in here. Let me close the door to the studio because we're about to get hot. All right. Tell me what's the difference. And this is gonna be a super loaded question, by the way. I'm gonna come at you hard right now. What's the difference between you and everybody else out there? And I know it's hard to answer that question without sounding pompous and like, but you have to be a very confident, strong individual in order to be a top producer within 2 years. Understandably, you had your license before. I had my license for quite some time before I went full time too, right? And so, for me in my brain, it was like, one day a switch went on and I was like, I can't sit in this damn cubicle anymore. I gotta get the hell up out of here. And I went full-time real estate. It took me 2 months to run and do what I needed to do. What makes Luis Andrew Ruiz different than anybody else out there who wants to be a top producer, strives to be a top producer, still is not?
Yeah, I think going through, I guess, the real estate career, I learned that I don't feel comfortable or I'm not very strong when I go to try to sell a house outside of my farming area. So I kind of started saying, hey, let me focus more attention on a smaller location that I know everybody. I went to all the schools here, all my family's here, all my friends here, and just focus primarily in the city of Cutler Bay. So when I go and I show a property and I know all the neighbors, or I've probably played in their front yard at one point, or I went to school with these people, the conversation's a lot easier. My kids go to the school in the area. Everything's just a much easier conversation. So it makes me stand out as the expert. As we're driving to the properties, they pass a few of my bus benches. It's the whole culture thing. And I think Riley touched base on this too at his summit as well. Stop trying to sell, the entire Dade County and Broward. Like, be the expert at one thing and you'll probably end up being better at it. And there's a lot of business in, every small little city. You don't really have to sell the whole county. And I've been, since that kind of triggered, I don't know, a couple of years ago in my head, I just had a goal to be the number one agent in the city and competing against somebody who's been here 30 years as the number one agent. And within a year, we took the spot and just held it down ever since. So pretty excited about that.
So you are the number one spot in Cutler Bay is what you're saying to me right now.
Yes.
Hold on one second. I've got all kinds of stuff popping up on my computer right now. Somebody was trying to call me. All right. So
3 years.
In about 3 years. Now, I want to, all right, not to take away from you, what said, because I completely agree with you. Farming in area is fantastic. The fact that you know people in the area helps you out. Do you think that it's more difficult for somebody who's maybe not from Miami, who's somebody that's come from another state? Like I'm a born and raised New Yorker, right? And then I leave off to the Marine Corps for 9 years. And then I show up in Miami and I'm like, I'm going to do real estate, right? I'm going to be a millionaire, Do you think that it's more difficult for somebody, or is it just the fact that maybe you made it a point to go out and make it happen. Like, and look, I understand. Like, I know a lot of people know me, man. Doesn't necessarily mean they go call me to help them sell their house.
Yeah, you're right.
Does that make sense? Like, I've got friends that have sold their houses without me. And
Same.
is it my fault? Possibly. Why? Because we might hang out, but they don't give a flying poop what I do for a living. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's my job to stay in contact with them. How do you do that? How do you, it's great that you know your neighborhood, you played in their front yards and stuff like that, but how do you really push to stay in front of them, which is something anybody can do, but most people don't do? How do you stay in front of them? Besides the bus benches, because I heard you say that.
Yeah, I'll answer your first question. So is
Okay.
it harder for someone who's not local? Absolutely. Like, they have to work 10 times harder than I do, because I
Nice.
bump into these people at the grocery store. I bump into everyone, going to school here. I'm at that age group where most people are buying houses now, and I've grown up with these people my whole life. So if you're coming here from New York or a different city, you really got to make friends really quickly, and you really have to start socializing and prospecting and making friends. And it's not, you're just gonna have to work a little harder, but you got to have that drive. You can't say, hey, I'm going to sit home and do nothing. And how do I stay in front of people? There's so many different things we do here. For one, we just did it the other day on St. Patrick's Day. I sent everyone a letter with a scratch off ticket that came with a penny and wished them luck. And I sent it out to a couple hundred people, and the people were excited to get this, and they had an opportunity to win a couple bucks on a scratch ticket. And it was just a friendly way to stay in front of everybody instead of that simple phone call or text message and things like that. So just little creative ways to try to stay in front of people. And we do an open house well, not anymore, but we were doing open houses every Saturday and Sunday. And it was our goal to do one every Saturday and Sunday for the entire year of 2020 until things kind of changed. But we were pretty much on point for the first, 3 months of doing an open house. So little things like that, just to stay in front of people, are important.
Okay, so hold on. I'm getting a notepad. Watch this. I'm getting a notepad because we're going to come back to certain topics. Now, you're on a bus bench. You sent out some cool scratch off cards.
And this goes on: newsletters, emails.
Right. That's what I want to get into. Newsletters, emails. Are you doing social media advertising?
I'm not yet. I do have Boomtown and the CRM, and then within Boomtown you can pay for advertising. So they'll go and do Google Click Words and Facebook Words and things. I'm not a huge tech guy, but they do something like retargeting and stuff that brings in leads and that people find our website because of what you searched on Google.
So Boomtown is obviously, it's a great system. It's one of the pricier systems. I know there's other systems out there that are just as good at a more cost-effective rate. And the reason that I put that out there is because somebody watching right now goes, "Oh man, I can't afford that," right?
Yeah.
And so I put that out there because I want folks to know that there are CRMs out there as low as $25, right?
Yep.
So and it's important that folks know that. But so you are kind of doing some Facebook advertising because Boomtown's doing it. So you're doing Facebook.
Yes, Boomtown is doing it.
Right.
I wouldn't know how to do it, but you just put a little budget and then it just does it for you.
Right. And so, yeah, that's easy. But me and you are on the same length, right? So like everything from the conference and everything, we always bring somebody in. We're like, hey, you do the funnels and all this cool stuff that everybody's trying to do, right? I want to touch on something because you mentioned to me open houses, and some folks like open houses. Some folks go, hey man, it's a waste of time, right? Even NAR will tell you that a very, very small percentages of homes actually get sold off of an open house, right? So what's the purpose of your open house? And I know the answer, but I want to hear Lewis's answer.
Sure. So the purpose of every open house, at least in my opinion, is to get another listing. That is the ultimate goal. It's not really to sell the property. The property is going to sell itself because of how you provide exposure and you market the property and you make yourself available to show it if it's owner occupied, et cetera. But the ultimate goal to an open house is to get another listing. And 9 out of 10 times you might bring in the buyer too, but the real ultimate goal is to get another listing. So you door knock, you invite all the neighbors in, and if you do an incredible job, you door knock again and you say, hey, I just got this house under contract in a week. Most likely when that neighbor's thinking about ready to sell, they're only going to think of you because you're the person who knocked on the door. You're the person who invited them. And that is the ultimate goal of an open house.
Can you tell me your system? Tell me your system. So I, Luis is hosting an open house on Saturday. What happens at what time?
Well, we slowly had to pivot recently because my for sale signs have been taken by the city. I didn't realize this, but I guess I kind of gotten away with it for a couple of years, but we are not allowed to put for sale signs in the city of Cutler Bay. They are instructed to take them.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. So my job's a little bit more difficult. But in the perfect world, you would put up signs like at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. Hold on, this computer's talking. I have another computer here talking in French. Okay. In the perfect world, you would put up for sale signs early in the morning, 6, 7 in the morning. You want people to see this all the time. And you're going to structure your open house in such a way that most people are going to come around the same time, 11 to 1, 11 to 2. I used to do 5, 6 hour open houses. And what happens is you get a lot of activity, but no one kind of crosses paths. You kind of want it to feel like a full house. So I kind of shortened up the time of the open house. And that's important too for a homeowner too, because you're telling them to leave their property for X amount of time. So by shortening it up, you're getting people to kind of walk in front of each other. Typically you would do door knocking the day before, a couple days before. You hand out flyers to all the neighbors. Hey, we're having an open house, inviting them. I've seen people do this, but I haven't done this yet, is inviting the neighbors over maybe an hour before the open house and have kind of like a luncheon for the neighbors. We haven't done that yet, but hopefully in the future, once we can do open houses again, that would probably be like the icing on the cake to really get more listings in the area by having an exclusive open house just for the neighbors. And then it opens up to the public about an hour later. Now you might get neighbors who are nosy, who just want to see what their neighbor's house looks like. But hopefully you build a relationship, you snag their email or their phone number, you stay in front of them. And when they go to sell, they're only thinking about you.
That's great. And you said something important, and I want you to come back to it. When are you going out and passing out the invitations?
A couple days before.
Couple days before. So if we're hosting an open house on Saturday, we're looking at going out Thursday.
Yeah.
And what's the best time that you find is like the right time of day to get out there and put flyers out to folks and say, hey, we're having an open house on Saturday. We'd like you to come by.
I don't really know what the best time of the day is. I just know it just needs to get done. And I think that's like the biggest struggle with real estate. Too many people try to, hey, what's the perfect this or what's the perfect that? And I wrote notes for this meeting because I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I just kind of wrote everything. And then I wrote something that kind of stood out, and it says, I'm trying to look for it here. It's like, done makes more money than perfect. And you just got to get it done for everything you do. No need to try to like overanalyze things or try to figure it out. If they're not there, you put it in the mail. But I think too many agents try to find the perfect system, the perfect call, the perfect script, and they're just not doing enough of the calls and really getting out there. So I would put that on everything. Done makes more money than perfect.
Shit, I'm about to put that on my wall. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a takeaway that people need to take away from this, right? It's very similar to, you're saying done makes more money than perfect. I just, my typical concept is take action, right? Like everybody has a plan, but if you don't action on the plan, then it was just a dream, right? And everybody's heard all this stuff and everybody sees the memes and there's the one with Muhammad Ali and everything. And, we all read them and we repost them and so forth and so on. But there's such a small percentage of people that actually do what needs to get done, like you just said, right?
Yeah,
and so you're saying, look, 2 days before on Thursday, get out there and put out some flyers. Is the best time between 5 and 6 p.m.? I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Get out there on Thursday and pass out flyers when you can, right? And if you miss out on Thursday, get out Friday, pass out flyers, and just make sure that it happens before the open house. That's what you're relaying to people.
Absolutely. And I can relate a lot to that, not only for this, but everything that we do. Even social media, half the things I post, I spell wrong. I don't try to like make it perfect. I just get it done. And I think too many agents, and this is not even real estate related, anything in life, they just try to make that perfect at everything. And sometimes you just got to get it done.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks like that.
Yeah.
I get people that call me and ask me if I could change certain things. I'm like, no.
Yeah. That's what it is.
And look, it's just a matter of, what you're trying to do. And I think what most top producers are trying to do is get the message out. I'm here. I want to help you buy or sell. Call me. Like, it's really, like, it's just that simple, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you guys, is door knocking a part of your repertoire?
I haven't really, to be honest, done that in part of my business. Now that the team is growing, we're trying to introduce it. But, obviously with everything going on now, we're not door knocking.
It's just weird, right? We're in a weird place.
Yeah, I think people feel uncomfortable and we'll kind of
Yeah,
disrespect
of course.
them if I show up to their house. And yeah, so currently no, but in the perfect world, if COVID-19 wasn't here, yes, we would have door knocking, especially because we farm such a small little area. I
Okay.
wouldn't go door knocking in Kendall, but I would door knock where I farm.
How many transactions do you have year to date?
I wrote this down. We have closed 41 and we have 16 pending.
So 41 transactions, 16 pending in Cutler Bay.
I would say 90% of it is Cutler Bay, 95%. And
And your team's pretty large. Your team's pretty large for a small area. That's why I'm asking. Because
so we have 3 full-time realtors.
Okay.
Everyone else is like my mother-in-law and an aunt and a relative and things like that, who have hung their license on my team and are helping, and maybe a deal here, a deal there, but for the most part, it's 3 full-time agents.
Okay. So this makes it even better.
Yeah.
You're 13 agents, but 3 are full-time, not including you or including you?
Not including me.
So 4 people have 40 plus transactions closed, 16 pending.
Yes. Yeah. I out of the agents that I recruited, 2 of them joined within the past couple of weeks. And then, like I said, the other ones are like friends and family who just have hung their license, but they don't really, sell anything.
All right. So let's tap into marketing a little bit. Bus benches, market reports.
I don't really.
You mentioned newsletters.
Newsletters, yes, every Friday. So at One Path, we have a graphic designer, and they put together this fantastic newsletter, and it's not real estate related, which I think is the most important thing. People get bored of these market updates and, oh, this is what sold in your area. They want something fun. So it's called a Family Fun Weekend, and every single Friday, they get a list of things that they can do with their family on the weekend. It's very consistent, always goes out. It gets into the entire database. And it's just a way to stay in front of people that has nothing to do with real estate. Some people really just want something different, and it's so quick to unsubscribe if you send them something that they don't like.
Right.
So that's part of it as well.
Awesome. Boomtown's doing your Google PPC and Facebook ad flow, right?
Correct. Yeah, we used to have Follow Off, just shifted over to Boomtown. I love it so far, but still kind of learning. I've only been at it with
It's a great system. It's a great system. I was on Boomtown for many years, and we just shifted. And I'm getting used to my shift. We just moved to Chime.
Oh, nice.
And, very similar. I mean, all these things do the same thing. It's just, one thing I want to put out there, and we can touch on this in a minute when we finish talking about marketing, is, no matter what system you use, it really doesn't matter if you don't use it, right? At the end of the day, and we'll tap on that in a second. How are you also using what lead generating tools are you using aside from Boomtown and open houses?
Sure, I have written down as well. We're big players in Zillow.
Okay.
We have advertising in Veterans United. So it's a referral business with other, I guess, military folks. And when there's not a local agent who can support them, they'll send us a referral. The bus bench has actually worked pretty well. And I don't have like a direct ROI. Hey, you got a bus bench, you're going to get X amount of calls. But it just helps when you go and you meet somebody. It's like, oh, I've seen you before. And I'm assuming it's from the bus bench, but it could be from a for sale sign or et cetera.
Right.
And then the for sale signs. The for sale signs generate so many phone calls. And there's some agents, and I won't say names or anything, but they'll list a property and not even put a for sale sign in front of it. And it's the best opportunity to tell all the neighbors that the house is there. And then if you quickly put a sold sign on it, you have now told all the neighbors, wow, you got the house under contract immediately. It's just a quick way to get a lead. And I don't know, I try to put a for sale sign in front of any house I can.
Awesome. So now let's tap into some things real quick.
Sure.
And if this is personal, you let me know. If not, we'll go with it.
I'm an open book.
What's your spend on Zillow?
$15,000 a month.
Okay. Awesome. And I'm glad that you put that out there. And so now we've got 50 plus people on right now watching, and a majority of them just said, okay, his numbers are great. I can't spend 15 grand on Zillow. So where did you start?
I took a risk. I had a credit card with a high limit. I said, hey, I'm going to pay for this. I started off with $300 a month and didn't do anything. I ended Zillow. I said, this is the worst thing ever. And then I got to a couple thousand. I still said, God, this sucks. Like, I hate Zillow. It's never going to work. My rep kept pushing. And so I got to about 5,000. And once I hit 5, and the way it got to it, I said, hey, you got to prove to me that this works and find me someone local that is paying a lot of money, and I'll do it. So she partnered up with me with some people up in Broward. There's a Remax company, and these guys were spending about $10,000 a month, and they were each making $700,000 each, 2 guys. And I said, wait a second, if they can do it, I can do it. Did I have the money? No, but I had a credit card with a high limit. I put it on the card, and I just hoped and prayed that I would close a couple deals before the payment was due. And it worked out. It worked out big time. The ROI on the Zillow is incredible, but you got to take a chance. If it doesn't work, it's your fault, right? You're the one who has to follow up. You got to have a system to follow up and make the calls and handle the appointments. Because what do you do with 300 leads a month? If you don't know how to have a process for that, you're gonna fail.
Okay, let's get into that. First of all, before we move into that portion, because that's where I wanted to go next. Before we move into that portion, I want everybody to understand what he just said. He said, I took a risk, I made it happen, and I ensured it happened. And I always say the difference between success and failure is the person who let me rephrase, because I'm saying something I shouldn't be saying. The difference between success and not having success is the willingness to take the risk plus the will to put in the work. Yep. Because you got to have the both, right? There are people who are great workers and amazing employees who are great at their job, they rock and roll, but they take minimum risk, right? And no pun to them. That's why the equation is the two of them together. Then there are people who take risks. You hear these stories all the time. They go, I got a high credit card limit. I'm going to call Zillow today. I'm going to spend 10 grand this month, and I'm going to make 100 grand this month, right? Absolutely. And then they get 60 leads in, and they call 5 of them because they're busy. They're hanging out with their friends, and they're having a drink at Fridays or whatever the case is, and they forget that credit card is going to come due. That payment's going to come due. And now this risk is bigger than you ever imagined, right? And so what you're saying is, and it's important, what you're saying is the risk plus the willingness to put in the work will equate to a winning situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I always back into it in terms of commissions. I'm like, okay, if it's $10,000 a month or $5,000, whatever you want to spend, I just need one deal to close, and I just paid for it for the whole month. So out of those hundreds of leads, I just need to get one to close, just to break even. I'm pretty confident that I can get more than one to close. And if you don't believe in yourself, then it is what it is. But now, not everyone should do this, right? Because not everyone is a true realtor, a true salesperson, a high I, right? If in the DISC assessment, you got to be very influential. So not everyone should just sign up and do this. But if you are that high I and then you're a good salesperson, why not? You're taking the risk on yourself if you can convert a lead or not.
I love that you brought up the DISC assessment. Is that something you do with your team as well? Do you run them through DISC assessments?
Yeah, we've had a few agents not work out, and I made the mistake and did the DISC assessment after. And if the I is not high, it just doesn't work. Like it is what it is. You can work on it. You try to train people.
Do you find it difficult to have a room full of high I's?
It's different. It's different, but it definitely causes some fun competition. Not only within my team, but at the whole One Path office. Like the competition is incredible. A bunch of high I's, and it's awesome. And you need that.
What about your D's?
I like I's better, especially for real estate. You really need a bunch of strong I's.
Gotcha. I love that you brought that up. If you folks don't understand what the DISC assessment is, go to Google, search Tony Robbins DISC assessment. And when you search that, Tony Robbins has a free DISC assessment that he does. Feel free to put your name and information in there. They're not going to call you or drive you crazy. They're really cool about it, actually. And you can do your DISC profile, and you can figure out what your DISC profile is. And that will allow you to really figure out what personality traits you have that you're excellent at, and work on those and make them even better, and then hire somebody to do all the other stuff.
Yeah, that's something I have written down in my notes. Like, don't do anything you're not good at. Don't do anything you shouldn't be doing. Our job is very specific, and we should just be, selling, negotiating, bringing in more deals. We should not be spending time on anything else because that doesn't make money.
So I'm like a 98 percentile on D, and
Okay.
I'm a 97 percentile on I.
You're good.
If you could figure that one out, right? But my S and my C's are under 20.
I would figured your C would be low.
Yeah, and they're under 20. So I have somebody in my office that's absolutely fantastic at that kind of stuff, and we make a great team.
Yeah.
Make a great team. So it's important to hire for the things that you're not good at. I know a lot of people they get stuck with this mentality of you got to work on the things you're not good at so that you can balance yourself out. Forget balance. Be absolutely amazing at certain things and understand you're just not going to be great at other things.
Absolutely.
So hire somebody to do those things. Hire them. I'm horrible at accounting. People will laugh at me all the time. I'm horrible at accounting. I have the best relationship with my accountant. We're like friends. We smoke cigars together. We drink scotch together. But that dude handles my money. You see what I'm saying? So I know I won't end up in jail for tax evasion,
Yeah, I think at the beginning I tried to do everything. And I was like,
yeah,
it just doesn't work because then you're taking money from making money.
All right. So let's talk about something real quick. How critical and how important is your CRM?
It's the most important thing. I think systems and that's something that I have written down too, is systems run my business, not my memory. And there's no way when you have 4,000 or 5,000 contacts in a database and you're having 300-400 leads a month and you have a huge team, how do you know where everything is at? It's impossible. So I 100% rely on the CRM. I think it's the most important thing.
I think a lot of people rely too much on memory. And when there are systems out there that could really work, and then there are folks there's so many companies out there. You're using Boomtown. We use Chime. EXP offers KV Core. I know Kai's does too. There's so many companies that offer systems, and people almost refuse to use them.
Yeah.
Right. And you just said it. Systems run my business, not my memory. And I love that, man. I'm glad you brought that up. So now, the CRM you're saying is the lifeblood of your business. It really keeps you on track and it keeps you in communication with your clients. Now let's talk about actual systems for your team. When you think about coming into the office and you think about the folks that are on your team, what are you expecting from them when it comes to the systems that you have in place? The reason that I ask this is because you have a large lead flow coming in. You've got Zillow, you've got Boomtown, Facebook clicks and PPC through Boomtown. So I'm assuming if I could do the math right, and I don't know what your spend is on Boomtown, if I could do the math right, you're probably averaging over 150 leads a month.
Oh, double.
Double. So you're at 300 leads a month.
Yeah, but
okay.
I've generated 1,200 leads this year. But it's gone down quite a bit. 350 in January, 320 in February, 300, and now the month of April is only 200. So it's with everything going on, it's definitely gone down a little bit. But yeah, on average, around 300 leads a month.
All right, so hold on. I got to write this down, so we got to come back to this. How are you manning these leads?
Sure. So I'm in the office now. I'm sitting next to an inside sales agent on my team who's actually working the leads. So in addition to all the real estate agents who are coming in and working it, trying to convert it and assign the leads to themselves to work it, there's an inside sales agent scrubbing all the leads daily.
Okay. And that inside sales agent is receiving every single lead?
The lead doesn't go directly to them. So the leads, if it's a phone call, goes to the individual agent. It just made it a little bit easier. And this is things that Zillow and different companies have done a lot of exercise and research on to figure out, hey, if Luis picked up the lead, but then Luis gave it to Paul and then Paul gave it to someone else, it causes confusion. And then there's a guy named Alex on Zillow and they're like, okay, I just spoke to 5 different people. I just want to buy a house. So now it's the agent that's going to show you the house is the agent who picks up the phone. And sometimes there's leads that come in through they clicked on something and it wasn't a direct phone call. Those will get here and those are worked by the inside sales agent. On top of all that,
so I'm on the Luis team.
This is all inbound, right? We have outbound as well. So we're in Vulcan 7 as well, and hitting up expireds, withdrawals for sale by owners. That's a whole nother side of the business, but we do that as well. I forgot.
So I'm glad we'll talk about that too. I want to talk about that too, but for the inbound deals. So I'm an agent on your team. Lead comes in from Zillow. Zillow calls me because I'm the agent that's next in line, right? I pick up the phone, I speak to the client. Client's not ready. Client's going to be, 6 months, 8 months out. Do I hand that back to the ISA, or is it now my responsibility to be in touch with that person?
Your responsibility, 100%. If someone's not ready for 6 months, put them on some type of auto drip campaign. Everything's automated. So it's not like you have to really phone call, and Boomtown will send them an email, a text, guide them to your website, start sending them some properties. And then you'll touch base with them every couple months here and there with a phone call. But Boomtown will remind you to call this person. Boomtown will send out that email automated. Boomtown will send you that property. You don't really have to do anything.
That's fantastic. So they're sitting on drip campaigns. But do you rely solely on those drip campaigns? Because I feel like the agents, even if they're on drip campaigns, the agents should have a moment when they call these people to follow up with them.
They should. They should definitely call. And it's hard. It's hard to keep track when you have a lot of agents and a lot of leads. But the ultimate goal would be very soon to hire a sales manager, who their job would be to make sure that the agents are being held accountable. They're actually looking at all their leads. And then the sales manager would really push the realtors. I'm kind of acting as that sales manager now, but yeah, it's definitely overwhelming, and it's a full-time job for somebody else for sure.
Okay. And then my next question is, you've got 1,200 leads that came in, and you've closed 44.
41, yeah.
41. Okay, so I'm going 41 into 1,200. So you're closing about 3.5%, not including your pending sales. If we include your pending sales, you're 41 plus 16, right?
Yep.
Into 1,200. Sorry. That's 57. You're about 4.7% closing ratio.
Assuming that all the leads came from Zillow. So the rate is probably a little less, because we do get a lot of.
But the 1,200 that you got year to date, those are all from Zillow?
Yes.
Oh, snap. Okay. So that's assuming that they're all coming from Zillow. I want people to understand that, because, when Zillow calls you and says, hey, guy, come on, join me, blah, blah, blah. I'll give you this space for $400 and it'll bring you 6 leads a month. And people think in their brains, they go 6 leads a month from Zillow, I'll get 2 of those closed. Now, I want to take the number 6, and I want to figure out what the average 4% is of 6. It's 2.2. So you'd actually have to go that times 10, maybe gives you a quarter, right?
Yeah, I think it's like 90% of the people who click on a house are not ready for at least 6 months.
Right. So the point is, I want folks to know that mathematically, if you do the math on a low budget like that, you're going to be going for about 6 or 7 months, maybe even 8 months before you close a deal.
Absolutely.
And that's the reality of this. And it's not that Zillow sucks, and it's not that it doesn't work. It works. You just have to be willing to put in the dollars and cents. So where you put in $300-400 a month for 8 months, folks like Luis and other people are putting in all that money in month 1, right? And so you're assuming, now let me ask you, let me go back. When you decided, you know what, I'm gonna go 5K, screw it, I'm taking a risk. Did you get a deal that month?
I'm sure I did. I don't know, to be honest.
Okay.
But something at that point got me quickly up to triple the amount. So yeah. Something must have happened where I closed a bunch of leads and said, "Oh shit, this is working." And when I got into Zillow, I was
how much time between 5,000 and 15,000?
I think it was a matter of months.
Wow.
I think I started ramping up as I got a team.
Okay.
So I was in Zillow just as a single agent and an inside sales agent. So it was just a one-person show with support, and that was it. And I would run and I would do 1 million appointments by myself, and I was getting overwhelmed. And I quickly realized, okay, maybe it's the right time to grow a team. And at that point, the team needs to eat. As a leader,
Yeah.
your agents eat before you. So it was big. I said, okay, I have to, what they call is the rainmaker, and be someone who can produce and provide a lot of opportunities. And that's kind of what I did to help sure that the team was, very successful at what they were doing.
How many deals are you closing in comparison to the rest of your team?
So last year, out of the I think we closed 89 deals last year. Out of the 89, I closed 55 of them. My goal for 2021, let's say, is to be completely out of production. This year, I probably have less than like 30% of the deals. It's hurting the team for me to be in production. So I need to get out of production as soon as possible.
Right. And are you going to completely get out, or are you just going to say, well, all right, all the buyers are going to go team. I'll work on listings with a selected group of folks. And then eventually in 2024, I'll get out of listings too. Or 2021 is I'm out of production and I'm leading.
So for 2020, as of 2 months ago, completely out of production for buyers. So I haven't worked with any buyers. On the selling side, I'm still going to listing appointments and still working directly with sellers. But the goal would be to really mold some of the strong agents and the top producers on my team so they can master the listing side of it. And then I can be completely out of production 100% for next year.
Fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Now that puts you completely out of production on your 4th year.
Yeah. 3rd year. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. It's really hurting the team if I'm spending time showing properties. I really need to be in the office and finding more opportunities and spending more time with them to make sure that they can turn around their deals, they can close them, and they can get paid.
That's huge. All right. So for the folks out there that are listening right now, I want you to really have all these numbers in mind. I'm understanding, and Luis understands, I understand, we all understand. It's not easy to start off or take a big risk like a $5,000 risk on Zillow. He didn't even have to do it on Zillow. It could have been Realtor.com. It could have been Boomtown. He could have went to Boomtown and said, I want to go 5, 6, 7K a month on lead flow. And he just would have gotten an abundant amount of leads. And somewhere in the 300 leads of the month, there might be one person ready to close a deal. And what's your average price point?
About $335,000.
Right. So let's call it 300 to keep it, keep it even for math. $9,000. That's your commission. 9K. So you spend 5, you make 9, right? Guys, that's good business. That's good math, right? And then next month you spend another 5, but maybe from the past month you've been nurturing somebody and you got somebody new on month 2, you close 2, now it's $18,000 for 5K. That's when Luis wakes up and goes, holy shit, man, I'm making 27K a month off of $5,000 a month. What would happen if I went to 10? And then what would happen if I went to 15,000 and spent, right? And I want you to realize that the ROI on this is 4%. All the business that he's getting in and all the leads he's getting in is actually only closing 4% of them. He understands that. And he's not spending an abundant amount of time on people who are not going to buy. He's spending time on people who will buy. And he's got them on CRMs, he's got them on drip campaigns, he's got an ISA, scrubbing the leads and making it happen all day. And guess what? If you're a young agent and you're trying to develop business and you're trying to create business for yourself, these are the things that you could be doing to make that happen. Focus on a farm area, spend money in that farm area, get out and shop in that farm area. Go to the restaurants in that farm area. I talk about making videos in those farm areas, interviewing, like I'm interviewing you. Folks like you should be interviewing the small business owners, especially right now, And so, if you put all those pieces together, no business is overnight. Luis is fortunate and hardworking enough to be where he is today in 2 years. That's not the average, folks, okay? But even if it was the average, 2 years is still not overnight. It seems overnight to folks like me who have been in the business for 15 years, and I've met agent after agent after agent after agent that are completely incapable of doing what Luis does. Not because they don't have the tools and resources, but because they don't have the will.
I think it's important too. You got to have a lot of discipline and you got to have a very, very strict schedule. So before I went full time, I was I guess a part-time agent, or I had 2 full-time jobs. I was closing 30 plus transactions with a 9 to 5. So it's not like I just been in this full time. I consider myself a full-time agent for the past 5 years. I just had another full-time 9 to 5 accounting job. So I just spent my lunch hour in the car. I would wake up early and, send offers. I'm the type of person that if I showed you a house and you want to place an offer, I'm going to run home. I don't care what's going on. I'm going to go and type up the offer and send it to you. Where I think some of the agents will go home and say, well, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'm kind of tired. It's been a long day. It's like,
Crazy.
no, like
It's
you got to
crazy.
go and type up the offer. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter if, and it's sad to say this, but if you're waiting and your whole family's waiting for you to go to a kid's party and you've been showing houses all day, your wife has to be on the same page, or husband, and say, hey, look, I got to type up this offer because this is how we feed our family. And I know we have this kid's party and I know you guys have been waiting for me for 3 hours, but I really got to get this done. And I think not enough people have that discipline, and your significant other has to be on the same page. And if they're not understanding, it's just a lot harder to get it done. Without a doubt.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Right. And listen, you might have to use cheats as you get busier. One of the cheats that I did was I activated the Wi-Fi in my car.
Yeah.
So now, if I got to write an offer, I got to do something. My wife takes the wheel and I sit in the car and I handle what I got to handle from my laptop. If you don't have a car with Wi-Fi, use your hotspot.
Yep.
There are options out there. There's absolutely no reason for us, to not be working as much as we can with all the technology and tools and resources that we have. And again, I think you're very right. It is very, very important to have your family on board. It's very important. Thankfully, in my household, I'm the real estate guy. And my wife's the mortgage girl. So we're on the same path. We're on the same warm path, and she's always behind the computer screen, and I'm always out and about or behind a computer screen. It is what it is. Kids get it, but we also make it a point to spend time with the kids and do things to help our brains kind of unwind. So I do want to talk to you about one more thing: listing sites. So you said that you guys are using Vulcan, you're calling expireds, you're calling FSBOs, you're trying to get more listings in your farm area, right? Who's making those calls?
Right now, it's a little different. So we just started this about a month and a half ago. It was something new. I said we're heavy relying on inbound stuff. We need to diversify a little bit more. So now we're focusing on the outbound. 90% of it right now is coming from the inside sales agent making the appointment, and then I'm the one going to the appointment to get the listing. It's new.
So the inside sales associate is doing that as well as scrubbing the CRM.
Oh yeah, and you want to make their job fun too, because it's tough. These cold calls are not easy, and anyone who says that they've mastered it, they've been doing this for a long time. It's one of the most discouraging things to do. People just hang up on you all the time, and why are you calling me? You're the 10th person who's called me, and it's the person who continues to go and follow up, or is the one who eventually gets the listing.
I have the greatest response for that, though. You're the 30th person to call me. Well, that's really disappointing. What do you mean? I should have been the first person. I'm slacking.
It's tough, and it's really tough, but it's an important side of the business that we need to do, and it's something that we introduced just this year into our business.
Now, I know we've talked about a lot of things that the Luis Andrew Group does different, and things out there that people are listening to. And I think it's a matter of really being able to stand out in your community, right? What is one thing that you could say that you do that really helps you stand out, even if it's the smallest, tiniest tidbit? But what's the one thing you could say that really helps you stand out? I know our team has something that we do that we know almost no one does. What's your one thing?
That's a good question. I don't really have a perfect answer, but other than just being really involved in the community and donating and volunteering time with my children's school, I think that's helped a lot. But I think something that maybe I do different that I think some agents just can't do because maybe they don't generate enough business. And it's important when you generate enough business, you don't have to really tolerate anything. Like you don't have to close that deal. You can just move on to the next deal. But there's been so many times that I have done things for free that agents would not do. I've heard so many agents like, wait, you're going to do that and you're not going to get paid? And I said, yeah, because it's the right thing to do. Something happened wrong with the deal. I still want the deal to close. You know what? I won't get paid on this one, but they're going to refer me someone else and I'm going to get paid. And I have done that so many times at the beginning of my career that when people come back and say, wow, you know, this person has done so well for me, they really they didn't get paid to save the deal. It is what it is kind of thing. And then you move on. But I've done that so many times, I think at the beginning, that it's really helped me get a track record. And you don't ever go back and say, well, I didn't get paid for that. You don't tell your neighbors that. But it creates more opportunities. And I think that's something that I've done that I don't think most agents would do. They say, I'm not working for you.
I think it's a mindset shift. You've got a great mindset from what I understand and what I'm listening to. Your mind says this is the right thing to do, whether it's good for me or not, right?
Yeah.
And because it's the right thing to do and you're doing the right thing, karma meets you and you are capable of receiving the benefits of that right thing that you did. Where a lot of people will look at a situation like that and go, I can't do that because if I do that, then they'll just take advantage of it.
Yep.
And then they'll tell the person they referred me that they can take advantage of me too. And that's going to be true for some humans out there, guys, but it's not all humanity. As a lot of you can see, and if COVID is teaching you anything, is that humanity is a beautiful thing. And when people come together, they could really make things happen, you know? So what you're doing, I applaud you for what you're doing and being able to do those free things for people. And Luis is right, guys. Most people can't do that stuff because they don't have enough business. When you've got 10, 16, 14 deals, 16 deals pending in the pipeline, and one of them you can't get paid on because it needs to close and something slipped up or something happened and you have to relinquish a large portion of your commission to close it, you've got 15 other deals in the pipeline that are going to pay you, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, okay, if you didn't do it, then what happens? Now they are contingent to buy another house. At least I'm going to get paid, on the purchase. I'm selling their house for free. Whatever, the appraisal came in too low and they needed those funds. You just got to get creative and say, you know what? I'd rather make a little bit of money than no money, move on to the next deal and just keep going. But I think too many agents just say, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do this.
Right.
And they're missing a big opportunity there.
Right.
Now, I'm not telling you to do everything for free because we have to be profitable.
No, you got to make your money.
But
treat yourself like a business.
Yeah.
It's almost like equative. I always say most of this is the same. Like most of the things you talk about are equivalent across most business, like, and I always say it's like, whether you sell lollipops, bicycles, or real estate, it's all the same foundational work. It's all the same mentality. You're in business of sales. And, when I think about this, I think about the quote that I always put out there. And I think about the guy who owns the lollipop shop that gives away that free lollipop to the kid that really wants it and the parent can't afford it, right? Like that kind of, and those kinds of things, they matter. Those things matter. And I applaud you for that. I feel like we just went from, a really hyped up conversation about making a ton of money to a really great conversation on how you give back to your community. And I think that's huge. So real quick, before we quit, I want to make sure that on Facebook and other locations, we don't have a ton of questions. So I'm going to go in here and see. I just want to double check. I don't want to let you go if we've got stuff in there. You know what I mean? So stand by for 1 second. And then on here, we've got learning a lot. Thanks, guys. You're very welcome. Somebody wrote, I love KV Core. I think it's a fantastic system, Brian. Absolutely. Looking forward to learning some valuable content. That was earlier in the day. Jose Medina says you got a nice haircut. So there you go, Luis. Riley, man, thanks for tuning in and thanks for sharing and supporting us. We really appreciate you. Let's see. Brian says, bro, that's your money. That's why you do it now. And so that's a really great comment because he's like, you're putting your money into this. You do it now. You take action now. You make it happen now. You get things done now, right? Jen Gomez says that is the key. Family has to be on the same page.
Absolutely.
Riley says, I think his one thing is how humble he is. And I think Riley's on point there. And like I just said, we went from this crazy hyped up conversation on lead gen and systems and money and let's get it, baby, right? And then we turned that into when I asked you what was the one thing that you do different that helps you stand out, you put my one thing to shame. You said I give back to my community. And so that's an amazing comment to bring up. That's an amazing thing to say. And Riley's on point in saying that it's your humility and it's your humbleness that really brings it to the table. All right, so let's see. I got some more stuff. What good affirmation? Some things done makes more money than perfect. That's awesome. I love it. Good interview so far. Very informative. Let's see. CRMs are client relationship management tools. Those can be Boomtown. They can be Sync. They can be Chime, which is what I use. They can be KV Core. It can be Follow Up Boss. There's all kinds of different systems out there. Do your research. Use a system. Do not rely on your memory to remember who is doing what and what they're buying and what their family's like, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You'd be very surprised. I had only one time in my entire life, and I've owned a ton of cars. I've only had one auto salesperson call me up and say, "Hey man, I know it's your daughter's birthday. I wanted to wish her a happy birthday." And that shit blew me away. That guy gets business for me, right? And if not for me, because I switched the type of car that I drive now, I send them other people. You know what I mean? If somebody says they want a Cadillac, I got your guy. You know?
I have a few other things that I'll share, and I don't know if the people who are participating, watching this, are thinking about joining a team or building their own team. But it's important to just make sure that, and I wrote this here, it says people are going to join your team for the same reason they leave your team. So if you're thinking about creating a team and you say, "Hey, I got all these leads, like this is why you should come to my team," they're just going to leave your team to go to the team next door that says, "Hey, I got more leads, come work over here." It's important that everyone knows that, hey, if you're part of this team, it's because it's culture, it's family, it's how we respect each other, it's how we bond, it's how we talk. I'm not going out and recruiting people by saying, "Hey, I got a ton of leads." If you're coming here to work for me because of the leads, this is not the spot for you.
It's not the spot for you. No. So I want to bring that up. Having 13 people on the team, how do you keep camaraderie strong? How do you keep motivation going? We talked about how you keep the team running, but now let's talk about feelings, right? Because they're important, right? I'm a Marine, so it's hard for me. I'm 1,000% honest with you. It's so hard for me, spending almost a decade in the Marine Corps. My wife laughs and says, it's almost like you have no feelings sometimes when you're doing business, and you have expectations and you put those expectations out there. And when they meet your expectations, very rarely do you give a hug and say, "Thank you for those expectations being met," because in my brain, they're like, "Dude, that was your job," right? But it's important. Those affirmations, those confirmations and affirmations are important. And so my wife's on me about it. My team manager's on me about it. Like my squad leader's on me about it. Like they're all like, "Hey man, homie just met the goal. What's up?"
Yeah.
So how do you keep the feelings, love, camaraderie, excitement, motivation, all the stuff necessary to have a successful team? How do you keep those at a very high level?
Yeah, so I think it's important to know that everyone's different. And there's a book and there's like a different type of test similar to a DISC assessment. It's like the 5 languages of love. And I could be completely wrong, but it's something similar to that. But it's some people need a pat in the back. Some people need a little present or a gift. Some people need recognition. Take the team out from time to time, one individual, and say, "Hey, let's go have lunch. Like, you deserve it. Let's do this." And it's finding what each person needs, because everyone's completely different. And not everyone wants a pat on the back. Always give recognition every single time you can. It's important. People work hard. They bust their ass. They deserve recognition. So that's something that I'm really, really focusing on 100% now, is giving recognition daily if I could. But anytime someone hits some type of milestone or does something well, even if it's a small win or a big win, they deserve recognition 100%. And then we also, now things are a little different with COVID-19, but we're doing our morning 9 a.m. huddle calls, and we're getting excited and talking about goals and objectives and just continuing to stay more involved. And it's just a little different now because everything's virtual.
Right. That's okay. I'm virtual.
But yeah, back to what I was saying. I think it's important to build culture and family and don't ever hire somebody, or if someone comes in the door and wants to join your team and they're talking about commission splits, like that's not the person for the team. Like you just got to find the right team that wants to work for the people who want to be part of this family, wants to be part of this movement. And those are the people you want to work with. You don't want to work with someone who's like, okay, well, how many leads are you going to give me? What's my split? Like, I don't want you here. Like, that's not the right person.
Right.
Like you just really, really want to focus on finding the right people, and everyone on your team has to get along with that person. If not, it's just better to get rid of them. And we've had that happen. We've had agents join. They don't really get along with everyone else. It's like, hey, you kind of got to go. Like it's family, and that's how it needs to be.
Hire slow, fire fast. Hire slow, fire fast.
Yes.
We have a very specific process in which we hire agents. And as I'm sure you do too, agents have a 5-minute phone call with me. Then they meet my team manager and squad leader, and then they meet my team manager, squad leader, and me together, depending on the on the information I got back from my team leader and squad manager. So, and then if somebody's not working out, fire fast.
Yeah,
you have to be quick about it.
I think that's the biggest mistake one of the biggest mistakes I've made is I've waited too long to let somebody go.
Me too. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of business people make, especially early on. And some folks can never get out of it because you want to be a good person, right? The problem with this, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you don't fire fast, that negativity that you don't want around stays around and spreads. And then you're finding yourself as a leader, finding it even more difficult to raise morale on the team.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm with you. Anthony Rodriguez says, grand slam of meetings. You gents are leaving talking gold and sharing nuggets. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Money doesn't sleep. Great advice. Discipline. So great advice on your part. Make sure you have the discipline. Suggested our CRMs. We gave those out. Let's see. What was the assessment from Tom Ferry, if I'm not mistaken? I'm not sure what assessment Tom Ferry has, to be very honest with you. Miriam is asking, Miriam Falco. I'm not sure which assessment Tom Ferry has, but I will say that Tony Robbins' DISC assessment, and it wasn't created by Tony Robbins. The only reason I'm giving you that information is because he allows you to take DISC assessment for free. So just go look up Tony Robbins DISC, D-I-S-C assessment. Google that, and then you could take your own DISC assessment on that watch. Let's see. 5 love languages, Gary Smiley, I believe. All right. Yep. Awesome. Thank you. Tony Robbins, I'm sorry. Yes, DISC. All right. They said sorry. All right. So anything else you want to leave everybody with when it comes to maintaining your team at a very high level? We've talked about systems. We talked about discipline. We've talked about structure. We've talked about quality. We've talked about ad spend. And we've talked about feelings. What else you want to leave everybody with?
I think it's important to know if you're going to build a team, when's the right time to create a team. Like you probably don't want to create a team if you're doing 5-10 transactions a year, because you're probably not going to be able to provide any type of business or support or help. You probably don't have the track record to build a team. But I would start off small. I would hire an admin first, who then frees up some of your time so then you can close more transactions. Then maybe you can incorporate a buyer's agent, and then maybe you can incorporate an inside sales agent, and just structure it little by little. I think too many people now are just like, hey, I'm going to create a team. Let me just become this team. But you really don't have a whole lot of closings. Like you need to make sure you are kind of proven before you go and build the team. And I think it's important when you start this team, it's set up correct from the first way. Everyone's commission split is exactly the same. Everyone's working towards the same goal. Everyone's part of the same family. It can't be different for one person or the other because it gets too complicated. And if everything's set up and you have that right foundation from the very beginning, your team's going to be successful. And I think too many people are like, oh, well, if you do this type of deal, it's this type of split. And if you do this type of deal, it's that.
Bullshit.
Same thing across the board. And I always tell people the split really shouldn't matter, because if you're eating a watermelon or you're eating the whole grape, I'd rather have half a watermelon than the whole grape every day. And I'm very confident that if you set it up the right way and you add so much value, that everyone in your team will do probably more successful than just your own individual single agent.
I agree with you, man. Yeah. Listen, I want to very much thank you for being on the show with me. We've passed our hour, and I want to, yeah, we're having fun, and this conversation can probably go on and on and on. I do want to invite you for a part 2 because I started thinking about something in the process
Sure.
of us talking. So we'll talk offline about that, but I do want to invite you on a part 2. And I think part 2 would be phenomenal if I could get you and Riley. I hope he's still listening. You and Riley to come on the show together, because I think that in my conversation with Riley last week, my conversation with you this week, and what we do here, I feel like if we just had a public mastermind talking about team development and what's going on, you know, I think people would walk away with so much valuable information. You know, I want to leave some folks with something. Teams are not for everybody. You know, don't join a team if you just think you're going to get rich off the team. Riley says he's in. Awesome. So, you know, don't join the team if you think you're going to just get rich off the team and they're just going to give you everything and do everything for you. No, man, you join the team because you want to be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Exactly.
And don't create a team just because you think you're going to leverage everybody and become rich and everybody's going to do all the work for you and you'll never have to do anything. That's garbage too.
Yeah,
You're going to have to lead that team.
Misconception. That people tell me, oh, you created a team because you don't have to work now. Your agents do all the work. And I just laugh. Because I'm like, no, I work 10 times more than anybody. So you definitely have to put in the work. If you're a team lead who's getting into creating a team because you're going to sit home and lay on your beach, like, no.
Nah, man, that's not it. And so, again, don't create a team unless you have the mentality that you're just trying to create something way bigger than yourself. And you know, I think you're on the right path. You're doing amazing things. You know, I can't wait to see you hit the 150 million out there and making it happen, man. So thank you again for being a part. For everyone that tuned in, we're going to get this video up on YouTube. You can reach out to Luis. What's a phone number people can call you at?
Sure. I can write it in the text too, but it's 305-978-4463.
What's your IG handle?
I think it's Luis Andrew Ruiz.
All right. He doesn't know his IG handle, folks.
No. I don't.
For that goes for all the folks out there that think they're going to make all their money off of Instagram.
Well, it's funny. We closed a handful of deals on Instagram, but yeah, I'm not very good at the whole marketing techie side and all that. I just got a website this year. I've always just been about selling conversations and not worried so much about brand, logo, and those things will eventually come. But
last question for you. When do you think that you're going to expand bigger outside of your Cutler Bay area? Like, when do you move to the next town over?
I don't think I have a specific time, but I think when I hit like 10% market share in my area is probably when I'll move to the next city. But right now we're having a like 3% market share of Cutler Bay, which just tells you how much business there is. Like right. I'm such a small little fish in the pond that there's so much business out there. So before I can leave and go somewhere else, I really got to, master my craft here. And I'm not there yet.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Another takeaway I want everybody to take with them was that as Luis spoke throughout the entire conversation, he spoke in numbers, percentages, quantities, values, and these are things that you need to know. I always tell people, you want to be really good at business, know your numbers. Know your numbers. Track yourself. Know what you did last year. So when you look in the mirror in the morning, you're only comparing yourself to yourself, not to other folks.
Yeah, there's a quote that I wrote down. I think it's like a Pearson law, but it says, when performance is measured, performance improves. And then when performance is measured and reported back, the improvement accelerates. And before, when I got into this, we weren't measuring anything. We had no idea how many.
No one does, guys.
What the hell's going on? But as soon as you start tracking things and it's being reported and like, okay, look at the opportunities we're missing out on, that really changes things big time. So it's important to have a system that tracks everything.
That's huge, folks. I'm glad we had so many people logging in. We've got a ton of views. It's been fantastic. I really appreciate you being on the show with me. Again, we'll get part 2 up and we'll plan it with you and Riley. I'll send you guys a group message so we can pick a date. Or I'll have George, my manager, reach out to you guys and see how we can pick out a date. It'll probably be sometime in June. I don't know if you know this or not. My wife and I are doing a charity ride. Nice. I'll send you the link. You can share it with your team and your folks. But we're doing a ride. We're going to do a loop around the United States on our Harley Davidsons. Oh, wow. And my wife rides. She rides her own bike. Awesome. And she's a tough one. She's got a fat boy, big old motorcycle. Awesome. And we're going to ride from Florida up to Maine, Maine across to Seattle, Seattle down to San Diego, and then back across. And we're doing it to raise money for the fight against child abuse. So I'm going to be on the road the majority of June. So I would love to be able to do that interview with you guys out there on the road. I think it would be great. And I'm going to make sure George plans it out, and we'll have a lot of fun on that.
That's awesome. And that's a great cause you're doing it for. Cool,
man. I appreciate that. Thank you again for tuning in. Everybody, we do this every single Wednesday at 10 a.m. Luis has been fantastic. We've had so many great guests on the show. Make sure that you're tuning in. If you want to stay in touch, remember what I said, text Enterprise1 to 33222, or you can just go to davidadamkurz.com and you'll see a lot of information on there. Anything you need from us, we give back. We love it. I do this for free, guys. Luis does this for free. Took an hour out of his day to give you guys a ton of golden nuggets. So, if I can tell you anything, it's what Luis said and what I always say: take action, make it happen. This information that you just absorbed, don't be an education geek and guru. Take the education and put it to work. Like Luis said, done makes more money than perfect. So just go make it happen, man.
All right, man. Appreciate everything.
Thank you, sir. All right, brother. We'll talk.
All right, take care.
Tell you what, if you enjoyed the show, make sure that you text Enterprise1 to 33222 and stay tuned for future podcasts, future shows. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out everywhere. You can't miss the show.